Hello, welcome back to this Handy Women channel. I am your host, Geraldine Anello, and I am back here with one of my favorite segments, which is what not to do. And the point of this is that we only learn through mistakes and through the journey and the process. So there's no reason to be afraid of doing them. And to demonstrate how true that is, I have different guests. And today's guest is Kat Stibley. Hey, Kat.
Hello. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too. I am very excited about this story, because today's story is under the famous safety sentence. And if you don't know it, you're going to learn what it means, which is calling before you dig. Kat, I hear it's got something to do about a backward fence. I cannot wait. Please, what happened?
So in our yard, we have a kind of a big backyard, and there's a full 6-foot privacy fence that runs and wraps the yard. And it was, I bought an older house, and at one point, a storm brought down a number of the panels, and we pulled it down and figured we'll rebuild it in a year or two, save up money. And so this story picks up at the point we're starting the rebuild. And this is actually this year. So this is right around Memorial Day of 2020. And I'm actually not home. I'm actually out of the state at the point this story happens. So I'm kind of project managing remotely as friends are helping with actually building the deck or building the fence rather. And in every state, there is some kind of utility locator wherever you live. In Illinois, it's Julie. I can't name the other states, but there's always some 811 that you call before you dig anything into the ground. And what they do is they then notify all the utility companies, your power company, water, electric, cable, telephone, and they will come out and they'll spray paint lines in your yard that tell you where everything is buried under the ground. That way you don't sink a shovel or sink a power tool into it. Some things, if you sink a shovel into a cable line, it's a really expensive repair, but nobody gets hurt. You sink a shovel into a power line and break it, that may be the last bad choice you ever make. And certainly digging up some of these cables, if you sever them, is incredibly expensive. You'll find lots of funny stories on the internet of contractors that thought they knew where something was and sunk a backhoe through a fiber cable, and several $1 million in repairs later have a really expensive problem. And I know this, and I know that this is an important legal and ethical thing to do. So I called Julie. This is when the project is going to happen. This is what we're doing. You give them it's called a plot of survey, where you line out exactly where you're going to be digging. They may ask you to actually mark it on the ground when they send the people out to mark it. And they notify all the utility companies, and they come out, and you'll wind up with a yard covered in spray paint. And they do their thing. And this all happens fine. And then my team of friends get the power auger out, and they start digging the holes where the 4x4s that support the fence are going to go. And I get a phone call that is, I can't tell if she's angry or terrified, a little bit of both, from the housemate, that they hit a line. They don't know what they hit. They're digging with a power auger, which is picture a drill, but just much bigger and much more powerful as it digs the hole for you. And they have sunk this into a buried cable.
This was before calling.
This was after calling. This was after calling, so after things were marked.
Okay, so nothing should be there.
Nothing should be there. And we knew, and this is where people sometimes get in trouble, we knew, factual statement, we were putting the fence back up where the fence already was. In my head, my calling Julie was a cover myself. It was a moral obligation, but it wasn't like they weren't going to find anything. I'm putting the fence back where the fence was, and that's why you call. So they sunk the auger into the line, and she calls me, and I call Julie, and okay, well, you didn't mark the line. What do we do? And they called back and said, okay, well, we'll call it. It's called an emergency locate at that point. Now I want to say it's like 10 o'clock at night by this point, and I'm on the phone with utility company emergency managers going, what did we hit? Because they've sent me pictures. It's a black cable of some sort, yay big. And we literally don't know. Did we hit we're near a power pole. There's a transformer right near where they were at. We don't think the power lines are buried, but we don't know what this is. And they send the guy out, and not on their maps. They have no record of what this cable is or who even owns it. But they apparently have a device that can identify whether it's live or not. Ooh, it says the line is dead, so we didn't damage anything live.
Great.
So just move over a little bit and we'll just move the hole over.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Okay, not a problem. They go back to digging. They hit a second line.
Of course.
Different than the first. Call me back, and I call Julie, and we go through the emergency locate, and now they've sent another guy out who again, says it's not on the maps. And he calls all the utility companies and all the power and electrical and everybody, and nobody wants to claim the line. Fairly certain that one was fiber optic cable from what they showed me in the pictures. I'm on the phone with the Julie guy again at like 10 o'clock at night going, you marked the lines. How does nobody even know who buried this cable in my yard? They did eventually get the fence up.
Well, was that second one live or also dead?
It was not. That was also dead.
Okay.
And again, not claimed by any of the utility companies. And I live in what's called an unincorporated area. And in talking with the Julie guy, he said sometimes they just don't even file permits. They just bury lines. And over time, over 50, 60 years, they lose track of them. They lose the.
What are those lines for then?
It could be anything. I'm guessing from what they showed me, it obviously wasn't water and it wasn't power. I'm guessing either phone or cable, but it's a straight up guess based on a round black cable.
So did you end up putting your fence on those lines, or did you keep searching for? But at that point, you're getting a little scared, right?
So you have a fence line that continues up our yard, and it does this. We just wound up bending the fence just slightly, so it comes out at just a little bit of an angle and curves around. So we ceded about 6 inches of land over to the neighbor in that one random corner, and it was one of those like, but the fence was already there. Just put the fence back. But that's one of those really important, and why I wanted to tell this story, even though, it ended with dead lines. Had those been live lines, somebody could very badly have been hurt if that had been power. And if we had not called first and we had broken a live line, I would have been on the hook for the repair bill.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's my obligation as, a citizen, a homeowner, whatever that is, to call before we dig. And that's, fiber optic cables and digging up my entire yard. That could be tens of thousands of dollars in repairs. Where if I call, they don't mark it and I sever it, they're on the hook. I checked my box, I covered my butt, we're good. And yeah, you never, and don't make that assumption, because, I did call, but I also assumed they weren't going to find anything. And had I let that assumption win, in this case, it would have still ended happily, but it might not have.
Yeah, I think the bottom what not to do of this is actually not so much on you, but very much on the people that put lines without letting anyone know. So and what not to do, don't put lines without letting others know ever.
Yep. And don't make assumptions. I'm not digging that deep. Oh, there was something there before. Do the right thing. It's free. They come right out. They have I think it's like 48 hours in Illinois to come out and respond. Check the box, cover yourself. Don't wind up with some really expensive repair because you thought you knew better.
And that's calling before you dig.
So
there you go. Calling before you dig. Thanks to Kat's story. Thank you, Kat, so much for sharing this with us.
Absolutely.